Alright, the first thing that you will want to do is go into scenes and create 5 new scenes, and we will name them accordingly. You'll want a title, game, game over, you win, and a pause screen. So go on into the title screen, and you'll want to go to images, hit the plus icon, and here you will import all of your resources that we'll use throughout the project. Once that is done, you'll want to find the Pacman logo background image and drag this in. Next off, you'll find the starter 1 actor. Go in, you'll need to create a rule. It says, and the rule will say, when touch is pressed, we'll want to constrain the attribute. You'll want 2 of these, one for the x-axis and one for the y. So you'll go to you will go to starter, position, x. Do the same thing for the y. Starter 1, position, y. Then you'll go into the expression editor, hit the down, then you'll go to device, touches, and x. Do the same thing for the y-axis. You'll go down to devices, touches, touch 1, y. Once that is done, go on back. Go ahead and drag the starter 1 into the scene. Next thing you'll want is to drag in starter 2. And you'll want to resize it accordingly, as it's kind of large right now. Okay. Once that's in position, go into starter 2, create a rule that says when actor receives event that overlaps or collides with actor of type starter 1, we will want to change the scene. So go ahead and drag that in, and you want to make it go to the next scene or to your game scene, whatever you called it. Once that's done, you can go on back and preview. You should be able to drag the Pacman around, and when it hits the starter 2, it should start your game. However, we're not that far into the game designing process, so on to the next step. Go on to scenes, then you'll want to go to your game scene and drag in the Pacman game map background. This will be the maze in which Pacman runs on.
Okay, this is how the food 1 actor works. You want to create a rule so that when actor receives event overlaps or collides with actor of type Pacman. So when Pacman runs into these, you want to do a few things. First off, you want to destroy the actor so it disappears and it looks like he ate it. Then you want to change some attributes, so we're going to do a change attribute, and then we're going to follow the path and we're going to do attribute game count, and then we're going to use our expression editor to change this, and we're going to do game count plus 1. See, because the count is following how many pellets of this food stuff you're eating, so each time you run over another one, we want to add 1 to the count. Then we want to change another attribute. We want to change the score, so we're going to follow the path game score, and we're going to use our expression editor, and we're going to change game score. We're going to do plus 5, so you get 5 more points, and that will go towards your score. And that is all there is to the food 1 actor.
So once that is food 1 is completed, you'll want to drag them in one by one to fill up your entire map. This will take a while, so I'll fast forward. So when you're done, it'll look like something like this. Now, granted, my lines aren't perfect, but we'll deal with it. Go ahead and drag in the cherries, the food 2, which will show you how to design later. go and drag them into the appropriate corners to give Pacman some bonus points that he can pick up along his way. The next thing you'll want to do is find the wall actor. So it's just a blank actor that has nothing in it, but it'll serve as, well, a wall. So you'll want to drag it in. It's by default its visibility will be set to false, so it is invisible. You'll want to drag and resize the walls inside all of the maze walls, so that it overlaps. As you can see right there, there's a wall. You'll just want to finish all of those so that all the walls have a wall actor on them. Then go ahead and drag in the Pacman, which we will design later. Alright, so you'll want to go into the pause button and make a rule that says when touch is pressed, go to scene pause. So we'll go to the pause scene that we created earlier. Now drag this in, just put it in the bottom right hand corner so that the player can easily press this if they want to pause the game. Going into your game over scene now, and that's all done. The winner screen, you'll want to drag in this image that's provided so that when they win they'll get a good positive encouragement. Then go into your paused game scene, make sure the background is present, and then you'll want to go to the unpause button, aka the play button. Create a rule that says when touch is pressed, drag in the attribute unpause game so that it'll restart the game. Drag that in, and then this scene is completed.
Alright, now we're going to fix the Pacman game map actor, so click into that. And first thing we're going to do, we're going to use the behavior load attribute. So drag load attribute in, and we're going to use our expression editor, and we want to load attribute game high score, and then follow the little path over here, game high score, and that way the high score will be attributed to the high score. Okay, and then the next thing we're going to do, we're going to play the sound, and the sound we're going to play is video game theme, so that when you start the game it plays the video game theme. And we're going to run it to completion, and that is it for this actor. Alright, now we're going to do the actor the score display. So just click in, and the behavior we want is to, is display text. So we're going to display the text, and we're going to follow the expression editor here. We're going to display game score, and that is all there is to that. Okay, this is how the Pacman actor works. Alright, first of all, we want to keep him inside the walls, so we're going to create a behavior. We're going to do collide with the wall. Alright, next we're going to do all of our movement stuff, so I'm going to create a group called movement. And I'm going to create a rule so that when we lift up on the arrow keys, Pacman's going to stop moving. So when actor receives event key, and then I'm going to choose left is up. And now since if we ever let go of any key I want him to stop, I'm going to go ahead and do it for every key. So key, key, key. Alright, so we got up, we've got left, now we've got up, now we've got right, and now we've got down, and set all of those to up. we want to, when we lift up on those, we want to stop his velocity. So we're going to do change attribute. And we're going to use the little 3 dots here. We're going to do Pacman, motion, linear velocity. We're going to do it in the X, set it to 0. Now we're going to do the same thing, change attribute. We're going to do Pacman. We're going to do motion, linear velocity, this time in the Y, to 0. So now when we lift up on the keys, he'll stop moving. Okay, so now that we've got the stop moving all set up, we're going to create another group inside movement, and we're just going to do move left. So we're going to call this one move left. Alright, so now what we're going to do in move left is we want to do the same thing we did up here with a rule. So create a rule, drag it in, and then when actor receives event, key, and since this is move left, we're going to do left is down. So we want him to move, so we're going to change the attribute, and we're going to do, since it's only left and right, we only need to change it in the X direction. So Pacman, motion, linear velocity, X, and we're going to set it to 150. That'll be our standard speed. And we also want to animate it so it looks like his mouth is opening and closing. So I'm going to drag in animate and keep it in the same rule. Alright, and now to animate it correctly, he's going to be moving left. So we'll start off with him with his mouth closed, and then with his mouth open to the left. We're going to keep all this stuff here, loop it. Yep, that's what we want. Okay, so now let's go ahead and do all the other ones. They're going to be the same thing, so we're going to do another rule. Or let's create a group first, I'm sorry. We'll call this move right. Put our rule in there. Put our move right in with the motion group that we've already got, our movement group, I mean. Okay, so move right, so when actor receives event, when key, and then we're going to do right is down, and we're going to change the attribute, that's the behavior over here. We're going to do it, it's still just in the X, since left and right are just in the X, we're following the same path. Alright, and now since it's to the right, we're going to do 150. Okay, now I made a mistake up here, so just come back up here. When we're moving left, we want it to be negative 150. Since positive would go to the right, negative will go to the left. Alright, now we're going to go ahead and do our move up and move down, so create a group. Creating these groups just helps keeps everything organized. Move up. We'll drag our group into our movement, our motion thing. Create a rule. I'm going to put that in there. Alright, so this is move up. Oh, let me call our group move up. Alright, so in keyboard up is down. We're going to change the attribute like we were doing. We're going to follow the same path, except this time, since it's up and down, we're going to be changing the velocity in the Y, and up will be a positive 150. Alright, oh, I forgot to animate these, so let's go ahead and add animate to both of these. So animate, and now this one, the one I had just added it to, is move right. So we need to use the images of the starting one, and then his mouth open to the right. That's all set up. Alright, move up. We need to add animate, and we need to add the images of him with his mouth closed and with his mouth opened up. Alright, I'm going to copy, move up, and then just paste it in here again. And now I'm going to change the few things so it'll be moved down now. So switch that to down. We're going to switch keyboard to down is down. And now since it's down, it's not a positive, it's a negative 150. And instead of his mouth opening up in the animate, we're going to simply use his mouth opening down. And now our movement is all set up. Okay, now that his movement is all set up, we're going to set up the objective of the game, so winning and losing. So we're going to create a rule, and then we're going to say when attribute, we're going to choose Pacman, or no, we're going to choose game. Going to go to fear 1 is false. We're going to add, click the little plus button, and actor receives event overlaps or collide with actor of type enemy 1. All this means is that the ghost isn't blue and Pac-Man runs into it. So he's going to die right here and you're going to lose. So what we're going to do now is add an attribute, play sound. We're going to play the sound Pac-Man die because he just died. We're going to run it to completion. We're going to play it once. Then we're going to destroy the actor so Pac-Man disappears from the screen. Good. And we're going to change the scene to game over. Okay? Now notice up here we did fear 1 and enemy 1. What you want to do now is do the exact same rule for fear 2 and enemy 2, fear 3 and enemy 3, fear 4 and enemy 4. I'm not going to show you how to do that just to save time. Okay, so I went ahead and did all the other 4, and I grouped them in a group called objective just to keep everything organized. Alright, so that takes care of all the ways you can lose. Now we're going to create how you can win. So we're gonna create a rule. We're gonna go ahead and put that in the objective tab that I made, or the group, and then when attribute, we're gonna do game count equals 122, and that's just how many of the little food things we put on the screen. So when the Pac-Man has collected all of the food, we're going to change scene. So click and drag that in to the scene, you win. Alright? And that's how you win the game, and that is all for the Pac-Man actor. Okay, this is the actor enemy 1. I'm just explaining how to do one of the enemy actors because once I show you how to do one, it'll be really easy just to change the attributes away from fear 1 and enemy 1 to 2 and 3 and 4 based on which one you're doing. So I'll explain this one, and then after I'm done, you just do the other 3 on your own, and just look back to this one, and just instead of using fear 1, you'll use 2, 3, or 4. It'll make more sense when you see it. Okay, so first off, we want to be able to keep this guy inside the lines, so we're going to do a collide behavior with actor of type wall. Okay, now we want to set up what happens when the ghost will eat Pac-Man. So we're going to create a rule, and we're going to change this to attribute. We're going to follow our expression editor and do game fear 1. See, this is what I was talking about. For enemy 1, we're going to be doing fear 1. So when fear 1 is true and this actor overlaps or collides with Pacman, there it is. Okay, so this is when the ghost is blue and it runs into Pacman. First of all, Pacman's going to eat the ghost, so we're going to destroy the actor. And then we're going to change an attribute. And the attribute we're going to change, we're going to follow game, or I'm sorry, not game, enemy 1, alive, so self.alive 2, and we're just going to type in false. Since it's dead, it's not alive anymore, that makes sense. And then we're also going to change the attribute, so change another one of this score. So we're going to do game, not that, we're going to do game and then score to follow the expression editor, the thing here. We're going to do game, so game score plus 15 points for eating the ghost. Alright, and that takes care of the first part of the enemy 1. Alright, now we're going to create another rule, and when actor, we're going to use attribute, and when attribute, we're going to use fear 1, so game fear 1 is true. We want to change the image, so that's a behavior, change image, and then we're going to choose the image ghost. So when Pacman eats the thing and fear 1 is true. Okay, now we're going to do the random movement of the ghost around the screen. Now this is kind of tricky, so we're going to create a rule, and we're going to change attribute. We're going to do attribute self dot al to, and then we're going to do another one, attribute, and we're going to do self dot al again to 4. I don't completely understand what this is, but I know it has to do with where he starts moving and what direction he'll go. Okay, so we're going to want to do some change attributes. The first one we're going to want to do is we're going to do enemy 1, motion, linear velocity, in the x to 0, and then we're going to do another change attribute. We're going to do the same thing, self, so enemy 1, motion, linear velocity, but this time we're going to do the y. We're going to change that to 100. Okay, so this is movement to go up. So I'm just going to change this rule to up. And now I'm going to go ahead and just do the other directions, and then I'll just paste them in since I've already done them, and I'll just explain them when they're here. Okay, so here are the rest of the directions. So up, down, left, and right, I pasted them in, and I went ahead and put them in a group just called AL movement, because we're doing all the self.al. So we did up together. Now down, you're going to use the attributes. We're going to set the attributes to 1 and 5. So when those are true, 1 or 5, we're going to want it to go down. And so down is a negative 100 in the y direction, and then it's still 0 in the x. Left is, we're going to do it when self.al equals 2 or negative 1. And again, these numbers, I'm not quite sure what they represent, but just that's for left, 2 and negative 1, and for down it was 1 and 5, and for up we did that one together, and it was 0 and 4. And so to move to the left, we want the y velocity to be 0, so no up and down movement. We want it to go negative in the x, which would be left. We're going to set that to negative 100. Alright, now for AL right, we're going to do it for 3 or 6. and we want y velocity 0, and we want x velocity to be positive 100, and that will set it up so he's going in the right direction. Okay, now we're going to do the rules for the starting direction. See, as I'm going, I'm figuring out what some of these things mean. I've been saying AL when it's actually AI for artificial intelligence. So just from this point on, it's AI movement, not AL. I don't think it would have affected you now. Okay, so we're going to create a new rule. And we're going to do when overlaps or collides with actor of type. We're going to do panel AI start up. We're going to change the attribute of, we're going to follow this path, enemy 1, AI, not AL, AI, to 0. And that's how, and this is the random, so he'll start going in the up direction. And so this is all random, their motion. Alright, now I'm going to copy and paste in the other ones that I've already done. Okay, so I've pasted in the rest of them. So we've got start up, and now start right. We're going to do overlaps or collides, and we're going to do start right, and we're going to set that to 2. And then to start left, we're going to do start left and set the self.ai to 3. And see, now we don't have a start down because where they appear on the screen, they can't go down because that would be going back into like their little starting area. It makes sense if you look at the screen that they can only go up, left, or right. So that is how you do the starting directions. Okay, so now we're still on the artificial intelligence motion of the enemy 1. So now I'm going to go ahead and just paste in all of the motion things just so you can see them because they take too long to type and I don't want our video to be too long. So I'm going to paste in what I've already done. Okay, so now here is how our artificial intelligence random will work. Okay, so up, down, left, when this is a new rule, when it overlaps or collides with up, down, left, right, up, down, left, which is what we're calling this rule, then we're going to set it to random 0, 2. Alright, and now another rule, I just did this all in a group called AI random. Another rule when it overlaps or collides with panel AI all direction, we're going to set AI to random 0, 3. So that's just a change attribute after a rule. Alright, now another rule is the left, right. So we're going to set it when it overlaps or collides with panel AI left, right. We're going to set it to AI random 2, 3. And all this random does is it generates a random number in the range 2 to 3. So that's all that does, in case you were confused. Okay, so the rule right down, when it overlaps or collides with panel AI right down, and these panels have already been, they should already be in the actors, and they're just on the screen. It's going to do random 5, 6. And when it does left down, it's panel 1, 2. See, these numbers, again, these numbers are just kind of determine the direction that it goes in. Okay, then panel, when it goes left up, we're going to change it to -1, 0. Right up is going to be 3, 4. So if you're trying to follow along, feel free to just pause this because this is a very complicated app and I just don't want our video to be an hour long. When it's down right, random 1, 3. Up down, random 3, 5. Up left right, random 2, 4. Okay, and that's all the random ones for the movement. So that's really complicated. You might have to watch this a few times just to get everything down. But that's all there is to the movement. It's just that way that when the ghost is moving around, you won't be able to guess where it's coming next, so it adds kind of more fun to the game. Okay, so now that we've got all the complicated motion stuff out of the way for the ghost, we can do some other stuff. So we're going to create a rule, and then when attribute, we're going to do enemy 1 alive is false. So when the enemy has been eaten by Pac-Man, we want it to respawn. So we're going to go over here. I'm going to go over here to our behaviors, and we're going to choose spawn actor. We're going to put it inside our rule. Okay. And now we want actor enemy 1 in front of actor. And the positions we're going to do is 240 and 180. And this just spawns it back up like we're near the spawn point is. And these are going to be relative to the scene. So it's going to respawn the actor after it gets eaten back to its normal state, so it won't be blue anymore after Pac-Man eats it. Yeah. And in order to make it not blue anymore, we're going to have to do a change attribute. And the attribute we're going to change is we're going to follow the path enemy 1, or no, game, and then fear 1. It's going to be false. Okay, so that takes care of respawning. Now we need to do another rule. So I'm going to create the rule, and then when attribute we're going to do fear 1 again is true. And now what we're setting up in this rule is that we want the ghost to be blue for a little bit, but we want it to change back to its normal color after a while. So when this fear 1 is true, when the Pac-Man is blue, or not the, when the ghost is blue, alright, so we're going to start a timer, and that's a behavior over here. So drag it in. Whoops, I missed. Drag in timer, and we want it to be 8 seconds long. And at the end of this 8 seconds, we want to change the attribute. So we're going to drag in change attribute. Man, I keep missing. Here we go, change attribute. And we're going to do game fear 1. And we're going to do that to false. So after 8 seconds, it will no longer be blue. Okay, so that concludes all of the behaviors for enemy 1. You're going to have to go back and do these for enemies 2, 3, and 4. And just anytime we used fear 1 or enemy 1, change that to 2, 3, and 4. It's going to be a long process, but just copy and paste, and you just have to diligently check to be sure you don't miss anything. So that is how you do the enemies. Okay, this is how the food 2 works. What this food does is it's the food that makes all the ghosts turn blue so that Pac-Man can eat them. Alright, so we're going to create a rule. When the actor receives event overlaps or collides with actor of type Pac-Man. So when Pac-Man runs into this, see, it's important that you keep all your actors the same as what we labeled them out there, otherwise it's going to get confusing. So when Pac-Man collides with that fruit, it's going to do a lot of things. First of all, we're going to play the sound. Where is it? Play sound. Pac-Man Power Pill. And we're just going to run it to completion once. So that's that little like level up sound. And now we're going to change attribute. We're going to change the attribute of games. Fear 1. And we're going to type in so game fear 1, and we're typing in true. And all that does is that turns the Pac-Man, or not the Pac-Man, the ghost blue. Alright, now we have to do this for all the other ones, so fear 2, fear 3, So I'm just going to copy and paste it. And then I'm going to change it down here. So game. And this one's going to become Fear 2. Game. This one's going to be Fear 3. Game. And this one's Fear 4. Alright, so now all of those are true. And now we want this to disappear, so Pacman looks like he ate it, and we're going to destroy it. And that is all there is to Food 2.